And today on 9 News at 3, we want to go in depth on road safety and some of the concerns we're just seeing and feeling in our community.
From pedestrians getting hit, we've talked a lot about that over the past couple of days, to a surge in e-bike popularity and celebrating the biking community. It all goes hand in hand. We're going to touch on all of those topics in the course of the next hour.
First, we're joined by Colorado State Patrol Trooper Hunter Matthews. Thank you so much for coming in, talking about this important topic.
Of course, thank you for having me.
So state data is showing us so far this year, we've had, almost 35,000 crashes. Last year, the total was over 95,000. We know we're approaching the deadliest 100 days of summer. What do you want folks to know, about how we're doing so far this year?
Yeah. So, it's unfortunate that we're up at 35,000 in general, and you had stated 95,000 for last year, because ultimately one crash is too many, especially because all crashes are preventable, most of the time anyway. So we just want people to have a little bit more patience this summer, going through the entire year, and just be mindful of everyone on the roadway.
And there's the roadway, and then there are pedestrians. Just over the course of the last couple of days, we've been talking about pedestrians getting hit. 4 yesterday morning alone. I'm curious, does that pick up over the summertime because more people are out on the roads, not in cars, but on bikes and walking and running and things like that?
Yeah. Obviously people are going to be out on the road or walking on the sidewalks a lot more in the summertime because it's warmer, the sun's shining, it's a beautiful day, rather than in the winter time when it's dark and gloomy and snow covered on the ground. So that's when you are going to see an increase in these pedestrian crashes, whether it's serious injury or fatal. But typically we try to encourage people to just watch your surroundings everywhere you go.
Yep, good info. We actually asked our viewers to kind of weigh in and see what questions they had for you. And something that kept kind of coming up, a reoccurring concern, was that they feel like they see officers all the time on the streets, but not necessarily on highways. Right. And they had some concerns there. What do you think, or what can you talk about CSP is actually doing to monitor the busier roads?
Right. Well, obviously, we would love to have a trooper every mile on the dot. On every single roadway. That's an unachievable goal. But to that point, we are always somewhere that you're not going to see us. Our goal is to monitor the traffic, the situation, and ultimately try to catch the people that are breaking the law. And we're doing that in enforcement efforts such as along the entire I-25 from Wyoming all the way down to New Mexico. We just did an enforcement operation where we had hundreds of troopers on the roadway, stopping cars, finding impaired drivers, speeders, along those lines. We're just trying to curb the appeal of dangerous driving.
If someone's out there on the road, this is another question from one of our viewers, and they see something that's really dangerous, or they think could be dangerous down the road, how would you want them to tell you about it if they can't necessarily get the license plate? Because that's a lot of focus when you're driving, especially on a road like I-25.
Yeah, if you can't get the license plate, try to get as much identifiable information of that vehicle as possible. So make, model, color, the direction that they're traveling, and ultimately try to be as safe as possible to make that call to star 277 or star CSP. That's going to get you in contact with our dispatch line to hopefully get a trooper to your area. But do so in a safe manner by pulling to the shoulder, taking an exit, and just ultimately trying to protect yourself.
I think we have time for one more question. I think this was another important one because we've talked about pedestrian crashes, also e-bikes, all the rage right now, and they've just been in the headlines. A viewer asked, how do we report underage kids on e-bikes? And this is an interesting point. What is the penalty for parents?
Yes, so I'll touch on the penalty for parents first. So Colorado law doesn't right now have any penalties for parents. However, I do highly recommend parents looking at local municipalities because they are allowed to enact stricter laws. So local towns may have different rules. However, right now the state of Colorado doesn't. And repeat your first question, please.
Just for kids themselves, right? Like, what penalties do they have? I think a lot of people are maybe apprehensive. You don't want to report a kid. You don't want a kid to get in trouble. I think they think, the parents should have some liability there.
Right. Yeah, of course. Kids have to still share the road with everyone else. They follow the same laws as bicyclists. So as long as you're doing your due diligence to drive down the roadway properly, or on the sidewalk, wherever that is, you shouldn't have to worry about facing any penalties. But again, I preface, hopefully these parents are looking at their local ordinances and municipalities for laws and regulations.
Trooper, thanks so much for coming in. We're going to go over more specifically about e-bike safety with CDOT at 3:30. I just was thinking this may be the first time I've interviewed someone who could have been recording us too. I just saw the body camera at the last minute. Thanks so much for coming in.
Of course, thank you.